Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Dalgaard, CFO of Dynamic. Thanks for joining me, Ann.
Thanks, Jesse. It's exciting to see you and exciting to be here.
No, it's glad to have you on here. It's always a pleasure seeing your face. And while I know it's June, I like the festive little fireplace behind. And I guess I should have thought through this and maybe done it in one of the colder months. But at least there's now no chance for any sparks that could fly off.
Right.
The natural fireplace you have as opposed to my fake fireplace.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, and well, for those people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date in equipment finance?
Sure. My name is Ann Dalgaard. I'm currently at Dynamic Rentals based out of California, but before that I was in public accounting for 16 years. I have my CPA. I also have my CLFP. And my journey in equipment finance started when I was in public accounting, assisting small and mid-ticket lessors and helping with their accounting needs, service provider needs in that background. So I have some experience, and it's been really exciting to see it from the backside, but then now also to be in a business position to help a company and to help our team with equipment finance. So it's exciting.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think I actually had the pleasure of meeting you as you were getting into the industry, and I didn't scare you off.
Thanks,
so
Jeff.
It's a positive thing.
2006 or 2007. We've known each other that long. So
yeah. I got in 2005. So it's we're almost on this journey together. However, I think I am now with my, let's see, 1, 2, 3. After 3 companies, I just decided to do it my own.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely. Oh, that's exciting.
So let's talk about Dynamic, if you don't mind. Do you mind just kind of introducing the company and kind of ticket size, where you're located, everything?
Sure. So Dynamic, we rent on a short-term rental basis, 6, 9, 12 months, film equipment in the film space. So production house will generate a film, but they won't own the equipment that they need in order to produce that film. So they go to a rental house, and you've got some very large rental houses globally. When rental houses are out of equipment, they come to Dynamic. So we're a neutral third party equipment source for those rental houses to fulfill their customers' needs. Dynamic started in 2017. And I was brought on during COVID, took a big leap, quit my job, and started with a small business based out of California in the hopes that we would build a lease portfolio. And it hasn't gone as well as we had thought, but it's been a really fun environment to work in, a really great group globally to work with. We have employees in 6 different countries. And 5 different states in the US. So that's been great. Our equipment works in 6 continents. And so I'm dealing in 4 currencies and different laws and rules and regulations globally on an accounting basis and finance basis. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, plus a lot of different electricity requirements in all those countries.
There's two different pieces. Kits can come with 1 voltage or some other voltage. So thankfully we're only on 2, but
that's good.
Works really well. So
assuming they have, the grid that can support some of the equipment, right?
Exactly. So we rent high-end cameras and high-end lenses, and they come in a kit. So, everything is in the box that needs to operate that unit. So it's really fun.
Now, do you ever get a chance to put in your T's and C's that you have to be on site to meet, some of the people in these things, just on-site inspection?
I do not, but our sales team does. And thankfully there's big shows globally. So there's a big show in London. There's a show in the fall coming up in Amsterdam. We just were at Cinegear in Los Angeles. So a lot of our clients come there. And so our sales team can meet them. I have met them. It's really interesting, Jesse, to go through that credit check policy with people overseas. We've got some clients in Korea, and I send out just a general email with some credit questions in it to their references, and apparently it's not taken very well. So it's a learning experience, and how to approach customers and how to work with customers globally, and how you just have to be a little bit different. So
Sure, sure. I'm just assuming in some cultures, people are like, what, you don't think I'm good enough for it? And you're just like, no, that's not the point. Like,
exactly.
what is my recourse here if something doesn't happen?
Exactly. And that's what we have to go into a contract thinking about. And you know, this position has been really good for me to be able to help instill those processes and procedures for our company. So
Yeah, because I'm assuming some countries there is no really recourse that you have. It's like, thank you.
yeah, I've shipped my gear. I hope it gets there, and I hope I get it back.
Yeah, right.
That's what insurance is for, and that's what
Sure.
those
I know,
people
but as a CPA, you seem really calm about this.
I have to trust my team and trust the process and trust the system. Just
Uh,
it. So
that's fun. That's fun.
yeah.
So strictly film equipment.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we've tried some post-production equipment. So after a film is shot, all of that content sits on a media card, it gets downloaded to a computer, and then, you know, post-production, they take it, they edit, they manipulate, like what you're going to do here today, and, you know, take it after the fact. And so we've tried some post-production equipment, some high-end storage devices, and those kinds of things, but there doesn't seem to be a strong need for us in that environment at this time. So, but it's good for us to have those contacts and continue to try new things and piece some stuff.
I just think of technology, right, and how rapid it changes. I mean, especially in that storage space where, you know, you
Right.
invest in all this stuff, and then 6 months later, it's, oh, you only have like 5 terabytes. Now there's this random thing, and it's like, well, at least with a camera, yeah, I'm sure the technology continues to evolve.
Yeah.
However, you still see some of the really old school ones that people use. So I'm assuming the longevity of that's easier.
It's there, and the demand is there. So, you know, we had started with 2 strong cameras, a Sony Venice 1 camera, and then an Alexa Mini LF camera. And we have started to see those kind of develop and be replaced. So last year in 2022, the Sony Venice 2 was released, and then the Alexa 35 camera was released. And so we're starting to see, and this is our first kind of walk through an equipment change and an upgrade. And so that's kind of interesting for our team to learn about equipment sales and where those secondary markets are. You know, we find them in schools. Students have to buy their own cameras in order to go to school. And so you've got a big market there. You've got a lot of owner operators, people like yourself who are shooting video or doing podcasts or things like that, that need a high-end camera or want that high-end camera to just play with on the weekends, or have a fun hobby, or shoot commercials, or shoot YouTube videos. And so, you know, it's finding those people and finding that market. But then there's still demand for those older antique pieces. And so, you know, it's really interesting. And then if you want to talk about lenses are also very interesting. You could take a lens and it's, you know, it's standard, and some are wide angle and some are high def and this, that, the other, but you can customize them so that they, you know, look like you're underwater, or you look like, you know, they've got different features to them. So you can customize them. But then you've got some older lenses that on this new camera work again. And so there's a high demand for this K35 lens that, you know, we're paying significantly more to get our hands on them now. So
that's awesome. And then, like you say, it comes in a kit. But if they want to mount it to like a vehicle or something like that, like
there's a lot of drone cameras, cameras that get mounted on floating things. You know, you've got your cranes, you've got your moving vehicles. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Your insurance conversations must be entertaining. We'll leave it at that.
We're very thankful to have an insurance company that is well versed in this industry and understands what's going on. So
fair. Perfectly fair. All right. Well, thank you for talking about dynamic there. So, what was it like, especially in COVID? I totally didn't put those two things together. Going from a job where you were at for what 10 plus years.
Almost
Um,
16,
I mean,
almost.
especially with an accounting firm, right? Where it's
Mhm.
honey, I'm home. You know what I mean? Like you have, except for during tax season, honey, I'm not home.
Yeah.
To going from a service provider to, you know, it's not even really a lessor. It's more of a rental organization that's similar, but let's face it, it's more different than I guess the
Yeah.
typical clients that you had. So mind just kind of talking through,
Sure.
that?
Yeah. Dynamic was still kind of in those developmental stages, and COVID allowed management to slow down and figure out what was making money and what wasn't, because we had a lot of cords and cables and memory cards and filters put on the lenses. And so it allowed management to really slow down and say, look, this is the gear that's working and making us money. This is the gear that's not. This is the staff that's working efficiently, and this is the staff that's not. And so it was a great opportunity, a great time for me to start with Dynamic because it was quiet. I was able to take the time I needed to understand the daily processes and the global processes, and then set new processes and procedures. So that was it was the right time for me to start with Dynamic. COVID was still, I started in October of 2020. COVID was starting to kind of lighten up, things were opening up, but what was great was the global business opened before the US opened. And so our gear was working in England, in Europe, in South America, in South Africa, before the gear was working again here in the US. So it was a great time for me to take that new position. It was a great time for Dynamic to give me time to get up and running with the team and really kind of put some new people in place, move some people around, and get some stuff right. Okay, so joining Dynamic and leaving the public accounting firm, COVID was the right opportunity for me to do that, Jesse. And schools shut down in March of 2020, and I came home and had to finish tax season. I was working 16, 18 hours a day, just trying to get.
How old were your kids at the time?
My kids were 6 and 3.
Yeah.
6 and 3. So I came home trying to work a normal 12-hour day during tax season, and it took me 18 because I was trying to take care of my kids and be with my kids and my family. But it also allowed me the opportunity to see how much I was missing with them and how much I enjoyed working from home, being at home, and having a little bit more flexibility in my job. So that was the right opportunity for me to take a break in my career and find something else that really worked for me. So
That's definitely interesting for sure. I mean, I can imagine two young ones. I mean, I think Rory was just minus 3 years, right? So Rory was 2,
right,
and just
right.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, Jeremy's old enough. He was like 11, so it's fine. But it's a 2-year-old running around like they don't comprehend, and those deadlines that you get when tax season. The work has to get done.
It did have to get done, but they were amenable, and they were understanding of the situation. And I think everybody was, because we were all in this period of uncertainty and unknown, but just that pressure of feeling like I had to get it done and I had to execute on what I knew I could commit to, just put a lot of pressure on me and on my family. And
Sure.
so it was good. It was good. So I knew it was the right opportunity to look at a new path and look at a new adventure. And that's when Dynamic came up.
And then going from a service provider to now let's face it, you were the person that your former self was trying to sell to on why you should use that firm service.
Yep.
What is it like? I've only been on the service provider side, so I'm only kind of getting used to now as a consultant where people are actually approaching me on business, so it's still a little foreign concept to me. So instead of being at the booth, you're the one stopping by booths.
By booths, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think my service provider mentality, it carries over to this business, because we're a customer service business. We're trying to meet a customer's needs by providing equipment, right? And that flows from top to bottom. You know, I'm trying to get customer invoices out. We're trying to meet customers' needs. I'm trying to be amenable to their needs and getting our bills paid. And then on the same side, the vendor side, trying to buy equipment and get information or get services from our vendors. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are very similar in that aspect.
That's an interesting concept. No, it's still a service provider, just
Yep.
servicing some other business.
Something else, or having a different vehicle to provide that service, right? So
Yeah.
Next to our equipment, which is very, very, very expensive, it's our people, and our people is what execute on that sale. And it's that customer service behind that makes our customers happy and keeps our customers returning to us. So yeah.
So still having, so what are we now, 9 and 6 for the kids?
Yeah.
So, and then how often do you have to travel?
Well, thankfully, I can make my own travel schedule.
Okay.
I don't have to be in California, but by being in person, Jesse, so much more gets done. Decisions are made so much faster. That customer bond, or that employee bond, customer bond, vendor bond is so much stronger when I do travel. So I try to go about every 6 to 8 weeks. But it's also a good break for mommy to get away and not be at home.
Hey, that's where I was gonna go. It's like, okay, I'm by the way, did I tell you it's on Sunday? By the way, honey, I'm leaving tomorrow. I wrote it down
on my calendar in my Outlook. Didn't you check my Outlook? No. We're pretty good on that now. And I was actually reflecting on my miles that I have stacked up, and I'm like, oh, where am I gonna go? By myself.
Yeah, right.
So that's really good. And I try to get overseas to see our team over there at least once a year, hopefully twice this year. So that'll be good.
Now, where are they headquartered over there?
We have an office outside of London. We're actually moving to London this summer, so that's very exciting. And then we have an office in Leipzig, Germany. So, and I have employees and coworkers in Denmark and in France. So
that's awesome. That's exciting. Overseas travel. I mean, other than to Canada, I don't think I've done any leasing across the pond yet. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Well, in this industry, the word lease scares people. So we'll stick with rental for right now, or rent to buy.
Fair. Lease to own.
Well, rent to buy. Let's try that first. Let's try that first.
It's like semantics. It's like, really? I've heard some of that now with some of this like mortgage stuff going on, where these like mortgage like buybacks or something that they're trying to do, where it's like, what?
Well, it's like the old people, you know, after a certain period, it's the buyback. And
okay, sure, whatever. Let's stay away from that. As a CPA, you're probably like, no, don't do that.
Well, the guys come up with some creative ideas, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Do you know what that's going to look like?
Hey, at least I'm not selling for you. Otherwise, I'd be like, it's done. They signed.
It's usually the 11th hour, and they're like, yeah, look, we're going to try this today. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no. So, I want to circle to, I'm sure we probably met at either an LTI user conference or some NEFA, was it NEFA conference?
Okay. Yeah.
And, I believe you've been on the board with NEFA, the upcoming chair for the fall conference.
Yep.
So let's just talk about NEFA, if you don't mind, and kind of what does that association mean to you, and, those relationships that you have. I mean, I don't think Dynamics really in equipment leasing, right? It's rentals. So you've kept your foot in, but not, it's
I'm not in
Interesting.
far enough, but at the same time, NEEF is a great resource. One, for friendships, Jesse, since we've
Okay.
known each other for probably 12 to 15 years.
Yeah.
It's a great resource for service providers. Outside of that, we have terms and conditions. They needed to be reviewed by a lawyer. I
Mm.
need service providers in my industry just the same as any equipment lessor does. So that's been a great resource for us. And then, to be on the board, I was a NEFA attendee for many years before I got involved with the board. I sat on the board of directors for 3 years. And in that time, I helped develop the education committee that sits today. And in that, it was the education is very important to me. I started my college career in education, and
Okay.
that work out for me, but education is very important. And I think that's one of the strongest pieces of NEFA is that information share. And, what I was just so happy to see and so excited to see when I attended NEFA events was just that sharing of information. You've got two competitors who would sit down together and talk to each other about their businesses. Or when Chris Enbaum opened his financials for everybody to see, to learn how he was doing things, or how he worked through and what his financial position looked like at the time, was really just a wonderful thing for everybody to learn from. And that's why the education committee to me is so important and why I continue to be involved in this industry.
Perfect. And thank you.
Mhm.
Like, I agree. I mean, it's the sharing of information, those lifetime friendships that you have, with people when you go to those conferences a couple times a year. It kind of keeps you coming back, right?
It does. It does. So I am still on the education committee, and I'm spearheading with Bob Rinaldi this new curriculum that we're trying to put together. So with the education committee, it's about sharing information, but it's about making sure that we have the correct information shared. We have good education platform to be shared of information. And then how do we develop our larger equipment lessors to want to bring more people? And how do we get that next level and that next generation of staff who will work their way up to management to continue to coming to the conferences, to continue their learning experience? How can we share that information with them? So we are working on, the education committee is working on a curriculum of information to be shared over webcasts at regional events and then at the conferences, to be, to continue that growth and that development of those staff who will in the future be management and owners of equipment leasing companies. So we're starting in credit. A curriculum on credit, which will be a 3, 4, 5-part piece. We want it to be right. So we're not rushing through it. We're not rushing to push it out. We're hoping that the first session will be done via a Zoom webinar, and then it will be offered at a couple of the regional events this fall.
Awesome. It's fantastic. I mean, I think me in my earlier career. It's like these sessions, just here for the networking, right? But as you get
You're here
into
for the
them,
drinks, Jesse.
right? No, I mean, no, just the networking and stuff like that. And drinks were important.
Okay.
Not that they still aren't, but you know what I mean. But as you get on some of those panels and as you go through some of those, or even planning a couple conferences like what you're doing right now, it kind of takes you into, okay, some of the stuff that we talk about during these things is, especially now with all the different stuff going on, is more important than ever, just to bring people on the same page with what's
Right.
going on in the industry.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you mentioned another accreditation that you have, the CLFP. If I don't talk about that, Reed won't be happy. So, how long have you been a CLFP? And I guess, can you believe how much that thing's kind of taken off?
I'm so proud of Reed and all of the work that she has done. I have had my CLFP for maybe 13 years now, since 2010, I want to say. And I think what was really important for me, Jesse, in getting that accreditation was to learn about leasing outside of accounting and service providing. So, I know nothing about sales. I know nothing about marketing. I know nothing about those pieces. And so that's what was great about the CLFP exam for me, and going and sitting through that session and taking that class, was understanding what else was out there outside of my little section. That was lovely.
And I was assuming that helped you with your transition too, because you weren't just so siloed. You're like, oh, okay, I've heard of this before. I think I've heard that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I had to open my CLFP book the other day. So thanks for you.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was exciting. I was on a call and I'm like, oh, let me look at that. Let me reference back to that. So it sits on my desk right next to my computer.
I have a book. I think I start reading it like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, no, not this year. Not this year.
Come on.
Not this year. Not this year. I do ask everyone, who comes on here to give me a little fun fact about themselves. So yeah, I didn't pose that to you in the question.
No, you
so
didn't.
I'm just gonna kind of put you on the spot. So if you don't mind, Anne, what makes you tick outside of being a CPA, being a CFO, being a mom, and a CLFP? What do you like to do in your free time?
What's been really fun for me, Jesse, is watching my kids grow up, watching them play soccer again. I played soccer for 22 years.
Oh,
did you know that?
I did not know that. I played from 5 to 17. So that was 12 years. You got 22. That's impressive. 22.
So I played all through grade school. I played in high school. It's been kind of fun because one of my coworkers is from England, and he's moved now to California, and he has 3 daughters. And so, it's a good business decision for him and his family to move here. But next to that, he was excited for his daughters and their ability to play sports, and what that does for women in the US, and the ability for girls to play sports in the US. And so I had to download some pictures and find some old pictures of me playing in high school to share with his girls. But then not only that, share with my own daughter, as she played this spring, and she was kind of downhearted about it and kind of, mopey about it. And knowing that mommy used to play and mommy could coach and help and be there on the sidelines with her was really fun. So
it's fun. That's awesome. I think Jeremy tried soccer and it just wasn't his thing. And I never really got him back into it, but that was the sport I played forever. I even got to play in Europe, but anyhow, that's awesome. I did not know that about you.
Yeah. So played in college. We didn't have a varsity team, but I played club, and then came home and played until I had babies. So it's really fun.
That's good. I was trying to think of who I had on here. It was a guy from Constellation.
Okay.
He's older than us, I guess. Us.
Yes.
And I'm like, how does that go? When you're in your like 50s and you're having these leagues, it's like I tore my meniscus playing dodgeball with my son this year. I mean, that's pathetic, right? Like, let alone like soccer, indoor soccer on turf, like turning, like nah.
Some people could do it and some can't. I tried again right before COVID, and my knees hurt too bad, so it had to hang it up.
Good. All right, Anne. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for sharing your story. I look forward to seeing you. I don't know.
October 3rd.
Hopefully it's before October 3rd.
That's Equipment Finance Cares.
Oh, that's right. We're going to be in Chicago in September. Yeah. And I'm sure I'll find an excuse to come out there beforehand.
Maybe.
All right.
Beautiful in Chicago right now.
It's nice for 3 months. Not, we'll leave it at that. There's a lot of people from Chicago in this industry, so I'm just gonna leave that alone. All right, Anne. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse.